Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat. It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez. What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the podcast, on the audio version, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. Here's your homework assignment early in the show. Help spread the word, guys. Let people know they can listen to us on the podcast. They can watch us on YouTube. Let people know about Baseball Shangri-La. Most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. So what happened was, I'm just letting you guys in on a little something. We did not change the opening theme. Okay, so you heard a little bit of in the beginning something a little different, and then it went into our theme. Um, I hit the wrong button, and as you guys know, I am not very good at multitasking. I am not. I definitely have no future as a DJ on here. So,
However, kudos to you while I was dying laughing that you kept it professional and you made it through the whole intro.
So, what were you laughing at the most? Because literally, as I'm doing the intro, guys, Amie is crying, covering her face, covering her. What was the funny? What were you reacting to the most there?
So pulling back the curtain a little bit, guys, when we hit the theme song, it mutes us, but we can still see our pictures in the bottom like left corner of our screen. And I could see Juan's stricken look on his face of, oh my gosh, as he's switching gears on the videos, and it was your face behind the scenes that was gold, my friend. That was pure gold. No one else but you and I will know how beautiful it was, but oh man,
I love gold.
I love everything gold.
And a pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. All right, let's officially start the show. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi.
You
Oh
more
man, I
better
missed
now?
you. Yeah, I'm probably gonna be tearing up for the next couple minutes, but we're good. We're good.
All right. Amie, before we start the show, I need to get your opinion on something here. Okay, we're going to talk about some baseball, guys, but before we get into the baseball, I need, do you have the thumb of judgment by any chance?
Oh yes, hold on.
All right.
Let me grab that. Oh no, things
And
are falling.
you guys listening, watching the show, please chime in also. So
Just the thumb? You just want the thumb?
yeah, well, I'm going to need the thumb of judgment here. So Amie, I got to ask you this. In the past we got a lot more Christmas cards. This year we really haven't gotten any, and what I love is the first. Well, yeah, let me finish. I'm getting there. The first one we got was yours, so thank you very much. But since then, we haven't gotten any, right? And so usually, what Wendy will do, my wife will do, is whenever we get Christmas cards, she puts them all on the back of the front door. So when we're leaving the house, we all get to see everybody's Christmas card. So we really only have yours. We just have yours on the other side of the door.
There's lots of pictures on them.
Yes, exactly. So we got another Christmas card today, Amie, and we got it from a close, what I'd like to consider a close friend of the family. The card was addressed to Wendy, myself, and my daughter, except they called me John and not Juan. And so, what I need to know, Amie, from the thumb of judgment, should I be upset about this? Should I genuinely be hurt, or should I be asking my wife, "Who the fuck is John?"
I think it's a faux pas for sure. But how well do you know this person?
It's fair. That is a very fair point. My wife and my daughter. It's more of a close relationship between my wife and my daughter. What's funny is their daughter. They met through softball, so their daughter and my daughter are best friends, and she happened to be at the house today. And so I said to her, I said, "Hey, who does the Christmas cards at your house?" And she immediately started laughing because she saw it. She
Mm.
saw it. I literally put it on the staircase because I was waiting for my wife to come home so I could be like, who the fuck is John? You know? And she saw it, and she did the way you reacted to me in the beginning of the show. That's how she was. She was literally bent over, just like laughing. She left the house and she was like, "Bye, John. Have a Merry Christmas." And I'm like, "Oh, so now we're gonna do that." I know logically what you're saying, Amie, is it was a mistake, but I'm just
As somebody who is constantly called Annie because people don't read my name correctly, for those who don't know, my name is spelled with an IE. Just for everybody, Juan is Juan. I am AMIE. That's not necessarily what people see or pronounce when they see our names. So, I mean, yeah, if it was like your friend who did it, I'd be a little bit like, all right, what's going on? But if it's somebody who doesn't know you that well, like you're just gonna have to chalk it up to, hey, maybe if you get to know them a little better next year, they'll know that your name is actually Juan.
Look, it was a mistake. I know it was a mistake. I hang out. I go to their house. I'm invited to parties, right? They all call me Juan. When my daughter has softball games, they come. They all call me Juan. Last year, we got a Christmas card from them that was addressed to Juan. So
Oh,
I
well,
know.
then in that respect, then Wendy, who is John?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I need the thumb of judgment here to be like, what is happening here?
I mean, I
So
don't think it's gonna play well on the YouTube channel, but like, there's not really a neutral spot.
no, I'm gonna
It's
go with the thumbs
neutral.
up. I think you guys let me know, guys. Should I be concerned here? This is a major faux pas. What's happening here?
Don't get so emotional. Don't make mountains out of molehills. You're
Emotional.
fine.
I love that. Did you guys catch that? Emotional. Uh, all right, Amie. Let's start with the comments corner before we get into the latest news because I know we didn't have an episode last week, guys, and it was just like there really wasn't much, but we got some stuff that we could talk about now. So we are going to get into some baseball stuff, but let's start with the comments corner. Yes, Amie.
Before we start with the comments corner, I hope everybody has their glass of water, their bottle of water before we get going. It was also brought to my attention at our baseball family dinner, where some of our listeners and friends mentioned that they noticed that you play with your microphone a lot, and they were curious why you rub the top of it every so often. And so I let them know that it's a touch panel for the volume, and so you constantly will do this through the show. You'll like reset your volume. So that was brought up as well by Philip and Jessica. Like,
I
hmm.
appreciate
The
that you brought
attention
that
the
explanation.
attention to detail.
So Philip and Jessica, I wasn't stroking my microphone, okay? I wasn't working my microphone, okay? As you guys, for those of you that have been around me, and Amie can go ahead and probably, I'm a loud person. I
Mm.
swallowed a megaphone as a child at a very young age, and they were unable to remove it from my throat. So I am very loud. And as a result of being very loud, I have to constantly mess with the levels on my microphone because I'm being so loud, my microphone decides to go down. So that's why I'm doing this.
He also moves around a lot if you guys aren't watching the YouTube channel, so forward and back in his seat, and I think it's the modulation between that. So, but it was suggested potentially drink when you see him mess with his microphone. So,
All right, I'm glad you brought that up because our dear friend, great supporter of the show, we love him, Bolted Dodger. We almost killed the poor guy. We almost killed the poor guy, and I'm sure we almost came close to getting. If you were drinking alcohol and you weren't like Amie and drinking water, I think we did a lot of damage with the drinking game last time.
oh, my kidneys were like they were clean after that episode. Before I could even upload it, I had to like run off camera. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go.
Yes. So for
So
Mr.
yeah.
Raider out there, calm down there, buddy. I know he was really getting excited because he thought I was, giving my microphone a hand job or something like that. But,
Okay, we
uh,
are definitely marking this one for adult content
oh,
this
adult,
week.
my mistake. Here I am. There goes our G rating. Thanks a lot. All right. Now, do you want to go to the comments corner before I make some other,
Oh my god.
inappropriate comment?
Good grief. I just yeah, so outside of some of the conversation back and forth with some of our listeners, I did get some messages from people, even just on social media. Jose, who we met earlier in the season, him with his family, he sent me a picture. He has our baseball.
Is this Jose
Shangri-La.
Ayala? Are you talking
No, no,
about
no. This is Jose Coro. Ooh, I'm gonna not get.
Covarrubias?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He sent a picture of his water bottle with our baseball Shangri-La sticker on there. So just shout out to Jose.
Thank you very much, Jose. I appreciate it. Wow, I did not realize how popular the drinking game was.
I mean, and just chatting with some other listeners, viewers. Armando and Sam are part of the Lord of the Rings club, so we all got to nerd out. I did
Nerd
see
alert!
the Riders of Rohan or whatever the movie was that just came out. So
That was animated, right?
Yeah, it was. I was a little
Oh.
bummed out.
Were you not aware of what you were going to go
Oh
see?
no, I knew. I'm not big on cartoons, but I wanted to see the story because it predated Lord of the Rings. So you know me, I'm gonna nerd out.
Nerd alert! 9
Yes.
hours of walking, ladies and gentlemen.
I knew you would
9
say
hours
that.
of walking.
Well, I have the extended edition, so it's probably more like 10.
Wow, man.
So, I know what I'm doing over the holiday.
Ay, Dios mío.
So anyway, shout out to those guys, part of the Lord of the Rings club. And then we just had other people that were commenting on their feelings. Obviously, everybody's waiting with bated breath to find out what's going to happen with Theo. This is a lot of letters. So MP GK7LJ is adamant, doesn't want us to overpay for him, doesn't, if he thinks if Theo's going to get greedy, let him walk. Where we have DJ Jesse, who's, he agrees kind of with our stance of like, money's not always a good thing if you're like, how many millions are enough millions? So, and DJ Jesse had just mentioned that, the Dodgers Oregon fans are first class, which I mean, I think we tend to agree with that. Maybe, yeah.
Well, in terms of the Teoscar thing, I don't think you have to worry about the Dodgers overpaying Teoscar, because I think this is why this negotiation has gone as long as it has,
which we'll get to in a second too with all
okay,
of
yeah, I'll
our
save
MLB
it.
chatter, yeah.
I'll save it for the MLB chatter. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Hazady also mentioned like he hopes that Shohei has some pull because obviously they were kind of buddies in the offseason. Like, can he sway something towards the deal? And then the rest of the comments were geared towards like Hazady is totally against the golden at bat, deferrals, things like that. And then somebody was talking about the Ponzi scheme that Oscar had mentioned in a previous episode. Just don't think it's a Ponzi scheme because deferrals do have to have that money banked, which we're gonna get into that later in the show too. So we can refer back to Hazady's. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Comments on that. So
all righty. All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about all that. I want to start off with today. At the time that we were recording this,
did you get my super early text this morning?
Yeah, you are an early riser. Let me tell you. Do you just not believe in the snooze button? Is that what's going on?
I work on Central Time, so while I start on 7 a.m. Pacific Standard in my home office, it's 9 a.m. So
yes. So yes, we got. So we get the news today that Walker Buehler has signed with Las Medias Rojas. I'm sorry, what?
He has walked.
He has walked. He has signed with the Medias Rojas. You want to give us the details on the deal?
Yeah, so as we know, the Dodgers did not extend him a qualifying offer. So he has accepted a 1-year, $21.05 million contract with them with incentives. It's been mentioned that there's $2.5 million performance bonuses, but we don't have anything set in stone yet. It's all obviously pending the physical. But yeah, so he's going to have a bounce back year with the Red Sox.
Oh, okay. Initial thoughts then, Amie. You think he is gonna bounce back?
Oh no, that's what's being reported. I mean, I hope for his sake he is. I'm bummed that he's over there, but I think more I've just been watching more of the fans' response to this move, and it's just interesting because I wonder how much of these people that are crying now are the ones that were giving him crap during the season because he got a lot of it. He had a 5.38 ERA last year. I mean, he did great in the postseason, as we saw, but there were a lot of people who gave him grief that all of a sudden postseason comes here and the narrative just totally changed and like he's our savior, blah blah blah. And it's just I like watching the humanity play out in it, and so it's just really interesting when comments switch gears so drastically.
Amy, I'll say this. I wanted the Dodgers to re-sign him specifically just to have him pitch in the postseason because
Mhm.
I just think that guy is a legitimate pitcher in the postseason, and there's something to it. I think that is real. We have seen there's too many examples on the Dodgers of postseason performers, and then people who just don't. They just don't. They're not consistent in the
Mhm.
postseason. So for that reason alone, I would go ahead and re-sign him. I do think the Dodgers are going to miss him
Mhm.
next year in the postseason if they get
100%.
there. If they get there, I will say this with Walker Buehler, he's going to have in terms of this bounce back. I'm not expecting him to have a good regular season, especially going to Boston and pitching in Fenway. I don't think that ballpark is going to help him out much. And like I said, hearing Walker Buehler talk, I don't think he is concerned about the regular season, right?
Mhm.
So
And it doesn't sound like Boston is either. They've already bolstered their team with other starting pitchers, so he's just gonna slot in there. There were some people, like, I did see, like, kind of the back and forth on, well, the qualifying offers for this year were 21 million, so the Dodgers could have just offered that because that's what Boston picked him up for, but then people are saying, with the actual value of the contract, it would have really thrown them over the collective or the CBT, oh god,
collective bargaining, no,
no,
the
no.
competitive,
Competitive balance tax. Those are the ones
competitive.
we always skew it, but, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't to me, it doesn't really could they have offered it? Is it the same amount? Did we miss an opportunity? He's gone. Like, we don't get to have any takebacks. So, I hope he does well in Boston, and I hope he gets much like when Bellinger left, it was like, I hope he gets what he needs for his next potential free agency stint.
Well, this is the argument you're going to get, Amy, and that is when it comes to money, that should not be an issue with the Dodgers. And I get that, all right, when it comes to money, but it is a roster spot. So
Mhm.
I found it very interesting that look, and I know I want to give credit to Bill Plunkett because Bill Plunkett went ahead and I think he tweeted this last year. I thought with all the stuff, and we've talked about it on the show, I really wondered if the Dodgers and Bueller had a good relationship. I was convinced before his postseason heroics that he was gone, that he
He
wasn't
he
going to want to come back.
Well, he thought he was gonna get cut in the summer, so, like,
Yeah, but
he was one of the people.
I thought even if the Dodgers wanted him back, that he wouldn't want to come back because it just seemed, I don't know, there really seemed like there was a disconnect, right? So when the Dodgers did not extend a qualifying offer to him, that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me because of the fact that I'm just like, the Dodgers are very savvy on this. They're not going to lose this guy for nothing, right? They're at least going to get the draft pick. But I know a lot of people had been putting out there that the Dodgers were really worried that if they extended a qualifying offer to him, that he would take it. He would take it
Mhm.
to come back to the Dodgers. So I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, let's crap on Walker Buehler because he left. Well, why he should have taken less money to stay and stuff like that. I think this was a sign that the relationship between the Dodgers and Walker Buehler was actually a good relationship. And all my worries about, oh, it's a strained relationship with them was BS because of the fact that they didn't do an extending qualifying offer, Amy, because I think the fact that they didn't, and this is what Bill Plunkett had said, and I think I agree with Bill Plunkett when he said, if because they didn't give him that qualifying offer, it allowed other teams to pay him more money because they weren't worried about losing a draft pick and signing this guy. So, look, if that's what the Dodgers' rationale was, and I know there's a bunch of other theories that, well, the Dodgers didn't want, the Dodgers didn't want Walker Buehler to take that because that's a roster spot that they already have another pitcher in mind to fill.
Which, I mean, I guess lesson learned, right? So next year, when you start worrying about stuff like this, like, one, we have no control over it, and it's gonna play out however it plays
I
out.
need you to remind me because you know what's gonna happen. Yeah, I'm
I
gonna get
oh,
caught up in the moment,
I
and I'm
will
gonna start
remind
sitting there.
you. I'll be like, "Calmate." There's nothing that you can create a narrative if you want. If you wanna create a whole story, as my friend says, you can knit a whole sweater, but, I mean, you still don't know what the actual story is. None of us do. We don't know why they didn't necessarily extend the qualifying offer. Who knows? They could have had an agreement beforehand. Hey, this is what we're all going to do. They had, and they all went into this with the agreement together. We have no idea, and odds are we probably never will know unless, he writes an autobiography later and throws a little chunk in there about that.
And what I did find very interesting, because he is coming off of 2 Tommy Johns, is that it was a 1-year deal. So it really is hey, this is your year to prove that you can continue to pitch in Major League Baseball and that you can consistently deliver results.
Which is
Uh,
fair because, I mean, it is 2 Tommy Johns, and he did have a rocky start coming back. Like, I think that's fair for both of them. He got paid. They get to find out what he has.
and that's why, because it was a 1-year deal, I thought, wow, why couldn't the Dodgers do that? And that's why in my mind, I'm thinking it's more about the roster spot than it is the money.
Which
You
I'm
know,
hearing chirps around about that even with Kershaw of, like, that's another roster spot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that to me is it's like I obviously the name that comes to mind is Roki. Everybody's thinking,
Rookie what?
yeah, exactly. Everybody's thinking, because he's been posted that the Dodgers didn't bring back Walker Buehler because they're
Mm.
gonna sign Roki.
He's
Look,
gon they're aggressively going after him, and the outcome is that, or the hope, the expectation is that he should sign, like, mid-January or by the end of January. We'll see if that actually plays out, but
but there are still like, look, I have been very surprised by how aggressive this team has been. And I think we're going to save this for another episode. But this whole talk, because I think Dave Roberts brought it up, Dave Roberts has been making a lot of appearances lately. This whole thing about legacy. I really think that the front office really is keeping in time that this window that the Dodgers are in right now, that they need to take advantage of it. Like, they need to win as many championships as they can in this window. And I think that's why I'm like, all right, if they don't, I look, I know the odds are this probably may not happen because he's going to get hopefully a lot of money for him. But Corbin Burns is still out there. Now, you really want people to lose their mind. If the Dodgers sign Corbin Burns, you're going to see everyone go. And look, again, I want to preface before I get clipped and they go ahead and put it on there. And I'm not
it's too late. It's too late. You already have
I'm
the
not
little
I'm not
soundbite.
saying that the Dodgers are gonna sign Corbin Burns, but what I am saying is I think that was taken in consideration is the roster spots. Do the Dodgers, and I think that is something I think they are thinking a few years down the road, not just next year. I think they're thinking about setting up this team for the best possible run in these next, I would say, 3 years.
100%. Well, just like what we've talked about before, Freddie, Mookie, none of these players are getting any younger. So you've got to take advantage of them with whatever they still have left in the tank before they get to the tail end of the years on their contract.
Yeah, I mean, Teoscar. Before we get to Teoscar, I just want to say one last thing about Walker Buehler. I am as much of a red ass as that guy can be in post game interviews. The one thing you can say about that guy was always honest. He was
Mhm.
dropping f bombs or whatever, but he was always honest. And yes, it he didn't necessarily look like he enjoyed speaking to the media, but when he did it, he did not BS you. And he was just a huge, big time pitcher here. And we've talked about this on the show. Probably not since Oral Hershiser, when it comes to the postseason, was there a pitcher as clutch for the Dodgers than Walker Buehler. This is a guy who played an instrumental role in the 2020 World Series, instrumental role in last year's World Series. He was the only guy who really showed up, I feel, in the 2018 World Series against the Medias Rojas. So I think it's a big loss. I think, as someone I said, what he accomplished for the Dodgers is going to live forever. So he is definitely not going to be forgotten. I do feel he's going to be sorely missed come the postseason next year. I wish him well con las Medias Rojas, but I am concerned how Fenway and in particular that green monster is going to treat him.
That's what we're hearing about other players too. Like I'm hearing again chirping about even Juan Soto as we start to go into like some of the other moves that the MLB or that have been made about around the MLB is people are starting to talk about like his great numbers in New York. Is that going to translate when he plays with the Mets in their stadium? And that's something that players have to take into consideration. We touched on it with Teoscar the last episode. He didn't play as well as he would have liked with the Mariners. We saw that change with the Dodgers. So that's something that I'm sure players are taking into consideration when they accept these offers, but it is still something that they're going to have to live with. But he was a great pitcher for the Dodgers. I will miss him, and I hope I hope he gets what he wants with the Red Sox this coming year.
It's funny because I don't think we look at it as that players really take that kind of stuff into consideration. But a few years ago, the Metropolitans brought in their fences, so
I
they
feel
could.
like you'd have to take that. Like, I feel like it would be silly not to take that into consideration. Didn't the Giants change like their bullpen and stuff
Well,
like
and
that
the,
in their
and the
stadium?
Orioles this past offseason, they're bringing in their fences too. So
Which is something I have never understood. Like the fact that we have different dimensions in different parks, like how does that impact overall stats and consistency across the league? And it's like,
I like that. I like that you have certain ballparks that, are different. I love that they give them, it gives them their personality, like Fenway with the Green Monster, Wrigley with the Ivy. Now, there are some things that I think are ridiculous. Like when the Astros had that flagpole out in center field on top of a hill, like that didn't make sense to me because that looked like someone is going to get hurt. Why would you do that to your own center fielder? But I do love when play like back when the old stadium in Detroit, where it was like 440 feet, the straightaway center, where it was like, man, if you hit it there, that's where balls went to go die. So
yeah,
I
but
do.
whoever accepts a contract there and takes that into consideration, great. But if you get traded there, because I think too, like we were talking earlier in the season about Miguel Vargas. If you get traded somewhere where maybe you didn't necessarily want to end up, like that still impacts your stats. Like that is going to the stat nerd in me is just like how do you have consistency across the way? Yes, other teams are going to play in there, but it's the same thing with like pitchers in Coors Field or at Coors Field. Like that does impact your numbers. And in some cases, if you accept a contract, if you're a top tier player, you have a choice in that. A lot of other players don't have that choice, whether they're, drafted, they're going through the farm system or they're traded. You're kind of stuck and you're stuck with whatever those numbers end up correlating as.
Well, when the Orioles brought in their fences, and it's like, okay, it's going to help our offensive players. I'm worried what it's going to do to your pitchers, because there might be some balls that were outs now are going to be home runs. And so when you sit there and you go, well, why don't the Marineros bring in their fences? And I think they look at it, they got a pretty good pitching staff up there. And it's just like the way we're going to win games is with our pitching and not necessarily our offense. So we were going to keep the fences where they are. So it's just, like I said, I wish him the best. I do think it sucks. I mean, he was a homegrown product for the Dodgers drafted him. He
Wow.
went through the farm system development.
He's
What
a
did I say?
homegrown product. Just look at our latest model.
That's right. And so to see him go, it's a harsh reality. Let's touch on the Teoscar thing. What did you want to say about the Oscar?
So a couple of different tweets are out there from beat writers, media in general. What I'm seeing is like they're kind of haggling between a 3-year deal somewhere in the range of 66 million to 72 million. And from what I've been reading, contract length isn't the problem. The issue is the money. Where this is where to me, again, like is it 10 million? Is it 15 million? Like what is the difference where to me, he is a difference maker, so I think you pay him. Um, I think you pay him what he's worth. He's not only great on the field, but he's a standout in the clubhouse. He is part of the heart of that team. So I don't know really where the disconnect there is, but there are also articles out there talking about who the Dodgers are potentially looking at in lieu of him, and whether it's free agents like Ha Sung Kim, or trading for like say a Suzuki or Luis Robert Jr. It's kind of up in the air there, but I'd rather
I
keep.
love that everybody's bringing up Ha-Sung Kim now. This goes to show that they listen and watch this show.
I knew you were gonna say that.
All I'm saying is, yeah, all of a sudden now everybody's talking about Ha-Sung Kim, but whatever. Go ahead, Amie.
Well, no, just that like that's great if you have backups, but like because of the core and the synergy with this team, I'd rather bring back those members that are like the fabric of it versus bringing in somebody new. Like if you're trying to run it back, like try to run it back with some of the guys that are hungry to do it back to back.
The Teoscar thing is interesting when you say they're hung up on the money and not necessarily the years. I do think those are connected, though. I think the years is very important, especially to Teoscar, because if you look at his service time, a 3-year deal brings him up to 10 years service time. And
Mhm.
that's a magic number for major leaguers, right?
Right, but if they're both like 3 years, okay, done. Now where's the disconnect? Like how far apart are they on the money part of it?
Well, that's where I feel like that's what the hangup is that I think it's that 3rd year.
Mm.
Is the hang up because you again the Dodgers, this is all like a puzzle, right, with them, because you have to take into account when certain people's contracts kick in, the deferrals and all that stuff. And I know everybody's like money should not be an issue with the Dodgers. If it wasn't an issue, like this guy wants to be here, 3 years takes him to 35, which is what Stan Kasten believes in. I'm just, well, then what is the hang up? And here's why I feel like the Dodgers are really playing the slow game here is because I don't think, I'm surprised at the numbers that are being thrown out there for Teoscar, because I think those numbers are lower than what I thought they were going to be when the season ended. I thought he was going to go. And it is obvious that teams are not willing to overpay for Teoscar. I forget
That's
the who the
we but we don't necessarily know that. We don't know what everybody else is courting him with. He has made it very clear he wants to come back to the Dodgers. So if this is like his primary focus, that might be where we're hearing the numbers for what the Dodgers and him are haggling over. We don't necessarily know what other teams have offered him, and maybe it is higher at that point.
well, what I like, in my opinion, what I feel is the Dodgers are not negotiating against themselves. Like I feel, and this is what I mean by the slow game, where the Dodgers are like, great, someone's giving you an offer like that, go get it. Tell us, give us an opportunity to match it. If you have an offer for 3 years at whatever amount, tell us what it is, and then we'll go ahead and decide. But it doesn't seem, again, I don't know who the writer is, so I feel bad that I'm not giving them credit for this. But when Soto signed and it was clearly an overpay for Soto, did that send a message to other major leaguers thinking, they're going to overpay for me now because Soto's off the market? And it just doesn't seem like it. I know Las Medias Rojas supposedly still have interest in signing Teoscar. I don't know how many other teams are interested, but
I've
again,
heard
from
I've heard the Blue Jays have been floated around again, so like potentially going back over there. I think with your kind of going back to the Soto thing, I think he's a unique situation too, though, because as we know with the Mets, overpay or not, whatever anybody thinks, the Mets were willing to pay that. I don't
right,
know necessarily that other teams were willing to go to that extent to get him.
yeah,
So in that respect, it's kind of more of a unique situation where, like with Teoscar, depending on is he singly or just basically just trying to work with the Dodgers and then also field, like you said, okay, what are these other offers so I can bring them to the table, or is he getting serious offers that he is genuinely interested in as well? And that's the stuff we don't know because we're not privy to that stuff.
And we don't know what role the agent is playing in this. The
Mhm.
agent may be the one advising Teoscar, let's wait, let's wait. But what's getting interesting now is we're getting into January. And we saw what happened with free agents last year. So now you're going to wonder if, and this is why, again, I feel the
FanFest
Dodgers.
is just around the corner.
And this is why I feel the Dodgers are playing this right in the sense that they're not, I don't think they're negotiating. They clearly have a number that they're comfortable with, and they're going to call out his bluff. If he really wants to play in LA, that bad, all right, play for this number. But again, I'm not going to blame him if another team comes up to him with a higher number. I'm not, but it's just in terms of show me what other team is willing to pay you more. If not, why am I, bidding against myself, which is something that I feel always happens with the Dodgers. Other teams always bring them in to try not teams, excuse me,
Mhm.
agents, people
Mhm.
associated with the player starts because that's where this information is coming from, guys. This isn't specific. This is a strategy. It's being leaked all for a negotiation. Now I'm just very curious because the clock is going to start getting a little louder.
Well, and I don't know that it necessarily goes to blame him for taking a different deal or the anxiety that I see across social media. Like, guys, we have no control over this. Like, we're also not involved in the negotiation. There's not like a seat for like social media as a whole in any of these negotiations. So, like, much like you, where you kind of hate the rumor mill and all the chisme that goes around, like, is he, isn't he? This source that can't be named said this, and it's like, okay, just tell me when it's final, because we heard some moves even that the Dodgers made that those still haven't been officially confirmed, like on their transactions page or through like PR. So to me, it's like until I see the actual official announcement, I'm not gonna sweat it because one, there's nothing that I can do about it. And two, these guys are gonna do what's best for them. Like we heard Devin Williams, he was on a Zoom call and you had messaged me this, but I think I'd already seen it on Twitter. He was surprised that he was traded to the Yankees because he thought he was going to LA. Like,
Well, he thought he was going to LA because they told him.
right,
He
right.
they told him. So I think that's a
The
perfect
co
scenario
It's
to
just
what you're talking.
the communication across all of this.
Look, I would have loved to have the airbender in the bullpen. I really would have loved him. And now the thing is, what we don't know, because the rumor was that Gavin Lux was involved in that deal. That
Mm,
we don't know. That's all speculation that was never confirmed. But what we do know, because it came from Devin Williams, is he was told he was heading to the Dodgers. The Yankees came in and made a move. And again, obviously the Dodgers didn't feel the need to do a counter offer, or maybe they did do a counter offer and the Cerveceros didn't like that. They liked, from my sources, thank you, compadre, told me that, they got that prospect that the Cerveceros got from the Yankees is a prospect that maybe may start for them this year. So they got a serviceable starter in Nestor Cortez. Who knows what the Dodgers were really offering? Maybe the Dodgers were trying to buy low on Devin Williams. And look, we all know Freeman loves winning deals. But that's exactly what you're talking about there, Amie, is this is all speculation because now what are we hearing now? Oh, the Dodgers may pivot, from Teoscar Hernandez. You mentioned Kim, right? But then there's also Anthony Santander. It's
mhm.
like, who do you think's leaking that information to these people reporting? This is all a negotiation. Somebody in the Dodgers front office, whether it's true or not, is leaking. Oh well, we're also looking at these players. Like again, whether it's true or not, they're leaking because they
Well,
want that
and
information out there to
you
put
don't know
pressure on the Oscars people.
but you don't know who's leaking it, to be honest. Like, it's always source that one close source to the other source that wants to stay in the shadows, and it's like, I thought we were actually using, like, sources. Like, that's why for me, if it's source of a source of a source, if we're playing source telephone, I'm just gonna ignore it. Like, tell me when it's official because I don't wanna do the speculation game. I have too much other stuff going on in my life. Don't care. Tell me when it's real. Because again, I don't get to show up to that negotiation, sit down and give my input. They don't care.
Well, I'm waiting to see what happens because if we don't, Christmas is less than 2 days away. Doesn't seem like that Teoscar deal is going to get done before Christmas.
Who knows?
Uh,
Maybe we'll get a for people who celebrate, maybe we'll get a Christmas gift. Maybe we'll, maybe there'll be a Boxing Day gift. Who knows? Whatever y'all celebrate.
yeah, I'm just very curious if that clock begins to speed up after the new year with deals. Well,
I'm
another.
sure it will. These guys, like, can't go unsigned. We said that last year, obviously, but, like, these guys are gonna also light a fire under themselves to, "Hey, I'm gonna take what's best for me," because we saw what happened to, like, Blake Snell. He had a slower start. Some of those players, it impacted how they went into the season. So, if they can prevent that from happening, they're gonna market themselves that way too, and as we're seeing, like, the Yankees are making a lot of moves, trading, either acquiring. They got Bellinger, as we saw, and also Paul Goldschmidt.
That's
So
right. Paul Goldschmidt ended up going to the Yankees. The Bellinger, I know a lot of people were, a lot of people. Okay,
they're like,
basically,
"Oh my gosh, he's gonna have to shave his beard."
yeah, that's true. Well, that and then also the Aaron Judge, ex-girlfriend who is
Oh,
now
no, it's
Cody Bellinger.
Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh,
I don't want Jose
Giancarlo. Yeah,
Ayala
you're
to
right.
get you.
Thank
Like,
you.
okay, guys, like, people are, like, the biggest
It's the off
chismosas.
season. We have nothing else better
But,
to
like,
do.
okay, but who cares?
Look,
Not
I
to
didn't
you, but
realize
just
I didn't realize that. I mean, Cody Bellinger has a very high price tag. I mean, he's over 20 million that he's going to be making next year. And maybe that short right field porch is going to do wonders for him. And that, well, look, the Yankees are making a bunch of signings to try to replace Juan Soto's numbers,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Look, but I know there was a lot of Dodger fans because they all love reunions. We got to have former Dodgers come back. Look, Cody Bellinger had a couple great seasons with the Dodgers. Whether it's because of the injury, because your man Kiké broke him, and he's never been the same since when
I
Kiké
believe
broke
I
him.
believe they both, high shouldered, high elbowed each other, so, to be quite honest, that was mutual.
Well, Kiké clearly doesn't know how strong he is because he broke Cody Bellinger.
I mean,
Uh, I was not one that I just felt I like the Conforto signing. I think that's really going to pay off for the Dodgers. In terms of assets, I've said it before on the show, I wouldn't have spent it on Bellinger, but hey, Bellinger now is going to go. Like he has played for three of the diamond franchises in Major League Baseball now.
good
He
for him, like,
he'll have the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Yankees on his resume.
mhm. Not too shabby in that respect, and again, I feel like this is where people try to rewrite history. We're the ones who are like, "Oh, reunion," which I hadn't heard that much of that around, at least what I was following. But in that respect, it's kind of like the Bueller thing to me. Like we're rewriting history. Like, oh, all the people who didn't talk smack about him a couple years ago are now like, oh, if he comes back, where it's like, weren't you guys like really upset with him and the Dodgers a couple years ago when he just like couldn't find it at the plate? And baseball's hard. It just I feel like people sometimes rewrite history a little rosier than what it was.
Oh, they definitely. Another move that I want to really point out real quickly because I think it's a really good move is the Phillies getting Lusardo from the Marlins of Miami. I know there were a lot of Dodger fans last year. They were secretly hoping that the Dodgers could somehow pull off a trade to get Lusardo from the
Were you
Marlins.
were you one of them?
Yeah, I look that kid. I mean, he's
Oh,
young.
did you just say look?
Uh,
Mira, mira.
I thought we weren't doing that because I feel bad now that I've had I don't want people being rushed to the hospital because I've been very conscious about how I use that word. But yeah, I would
It's the holidays. People have to do stuff for the next couple days, so
look. Don't forget
Oh!
about the Phillies.
Oh!
And I did it again. I did. Don't forget about the Phillies. Like I know that everybody. I think Vegas still has the Dodgers as the favorites going into next year. But I really like the moves that the Phillies have done in terms of their pitching staff. The playoffs are, they're just a different animal, right? But That's a move that we should be keeping an eye on, because going into next year, if you're looking at the league as a whole in terms of the National League, the Phillies, I think, are going to be just as competitive and going to be up there challenging the Dodgers in the National League.
Well, good. I hope people are either making moves or using their payroll wisely. Like, we know the A's still have to spend a little bit more money to even get full access to their CBT, like the pool money. But like these people should be putting a better product out on the field. That's the whole point. In regard to that, there were some other moves that were made in the last like 24 hours too. Sean Manaea is going to the Mets on a 3-year, $75 million contract, and he's got some deferrals built in there. Look at that.
They're ruining baseball. The Metropolitans are ruining baseball.
Oh gosh, deferrals. And then old friend Jock Peterson just signed a 2-year, $37 million deal with the Rangers, so he'll be playing back with his buddy Cody Bellinger. Or not Cody Bellinger, sorry, Corey Seager. I have my notes right next to each other.
Yeah, because the Rangers of Texas just seem to just get as many former Dodgers as they can.
You could say the same about the Red Sox, though.
That's true. I was secretly hoping that Jock would either sign with the Show Pods or the Rockies, because I want him to see if he can play for every team in the National League West. I want to, before his career is over, I want to see if he can pull that off on his bingo card.
Jock's just trying to get paid, yo. He's just trying to get his money.
That's a good chunk of money, I feel like. When I saw that, I was like, good for Jock.
Dude, I feel like Kiké is a pretty, like, to me, he's a top tier player. Obviously not like Teoscar, like all these other ones, but like what he signed for last year versus like what Jock just signed for. I'm just like, there's definitely a discrepancy.
So you think Kiké should be getting Jock money, is what you're saying?
I'm thinking he should be getting more than what he got last year. What did he get, like 5 million?
He got 4 last year.
4 million, yeah.
I'm still like amazed at how cheap the Dodgers got him.
Which is like, okay, so can we just re-sign him already, please? Like
I don't know if you're going to be able to get him for that same price this year.
Well, and he made it known again on another podcast. I think he was doing something with something called The Shop. Like, he wants to be a Dodger. Like, he wants to come back. I would like him to come back.
Okay, before we get, I do want to talk about your one of your favorite players, Kiké, especially that appearance that he made on The Shop. Are there any other moves that you want to talk about before we switch gears?
No. I mean, there's some rumors that haven't been substantiated yet. David Bodie might be coming as a non-roster invitee. Again, a lot of these are not showing up on the Dodgers transaction page yet. Matt Sauer, Julian Fernandez. And then the Dodgers did officially sign 7 players by the end of the international signing period. So 6 of them from the Dominican Republic, 1 of them from Venezuela. And then there are some transactions that are actually listed. So left-handed pitcher Garrett McDaniels, shortstop Kendall Simmons, minor league contract, center fielder Justin Dean, minor league contract, and then Tanner Keast is a right-handed pitcher. So all of these guys got signed to minor league contracts, with the exception of Garrett McDaniels, who they purchased his. So
no other minor league moves that you want to bring up?
Is there one that you would like to bring up?
I'm just surprised that we lost our boy Lipschitz. They released Lipschitz, or were you
his name correctly, John? You're all butthurt at the beginning of the episode, John, and now you're ruining this poor man's name.
Is the Lipschitz one not confirmed?
I hadn't seen that, but I mean,
you hadn't seen. All right, I'm gonna let you Google while I vamp.
Well, no, I have the transactions page up. So unless they did it today,
am I wrong that Lipschitz has been? I thought he was released by the Dodgers.
He might have been released. I'm looking at the transactions, and I don't see anything here. So
I saw this all over Twitter that Lipschitz.
Okay. Well, that's also like the David Bodie thing. There's been an article written about it, but he does not show up yet on the transactions for the Dodgers. So until they confirm it, I mean, if there's the potential. So
we'll save it then until it becomes official?
Sure. Or maybe there's a different page I'm not looking at. So if you guys have a different source, and hopefully not a source of a source of a source, let us know.
All right, we're gonna put a
Um,
pin in that one. Jose Ayala, don't give us a base
mm-mm.
running error yet on that one because
No,
we're going
we're still talking to our first base coach. We're strategizing. We're good.
we're still we're going off of the Dodgers log there. Okay, so before we talk about Geek's appearance on the shop, we do have some unicorn news, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone this far into the show without talking about Otani. You want to give me my Otani update?
No, I know how much you love him. Go for it.
No. Go ahead. I like
Okay.
when you give the updates.
Oh, okay. So he is the Associated Press's Male Athlete of the Year. So this is his third time winning the honor. He's tied with Michael Jordan, and he's one away from tying LeBron James, Tiger Woods, and Lance Armstrong with the most wins of all time. So another Shohei award.
Look, I think this is a big deal
I
because
think he bought that new house just for all his awards.
well, I think it's a big deal because this just goes to show you. I just feel like we can't take for granted the unicorn. Like, I know everybody's like, "Oh, well, he's Otani," but the fact that the names that you just mentioned right there, these are
Oh, I
iconic.
mean, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Lance Armstrong. I mean,
I'm going to throw Lance Armstrong out just because of there was some other
yes,
stuff going
mhm,
on there with
yeah,
him.
right.
But when your name is being thrown up there with Michael Jordan, I just and I still like we don't even know what he's gonna do next, right? I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody thought 50-50 was on the table,
I feel
right?
like he did great things with the Angels, like, I don't wanna discount that, but I feel like the training wheels have come off, and he's really going to spread his wings and see what he's capable of.
Yeah. So I just think it is a great honor there. So I just wanted to mention and work the unicorn into this. All right, let's talk about your boy Kike and his appearance in the shop and how it seems like his mouth just seems to be getting him into trouble.
I mean, we just saw I mean, the gist of it, he talked about a lot of things, was
And I'm
that
saying this knowing that the unofficial Kike fan club is ready to jump down my
oh,
throat
they
right now.
just, like, honed their ears a little bit like, "Doo, doo, 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 doo." He was just talking about how he was almost suspended for the comments that he made coming out of the NL was it the NLDS, I believe?
Yeah, it was
It
after they
all
beat the
blends
show pods.
together. Yeah. So luckily he didn't get suspended. It was gonna be for at least 1 game. Otherwise we would have missed him in the next round, even though he didn't play the first couple games in the NLDS, which we
Was a
also
head scratcher, which is
yes.
just like don't understand that,
Can
but
we
whatever.
retroactively do it back to some of those games that he didn't play in that he should have been in? But so the fact that he almost got suspended, I mean, I think he credited it to his agent, but glad he didn't.
Yeah, I don't if he would have gotten suspended for that, I think your boy Manfredi, and I know you're gonna say you have some ire that you have saved for Manfredi in this episode, but
Me?
if he would have gotten suspended for that comment, I think that would have caused even more issues, or, you
It
know.
galvanized the fans and it galvanized the team. Like, I know some people don't like that kind of language, but at the end of the day, like, he wasn't to me, it's like it wasn't a slur. It wasn't, he wasn't calling out other people, which we've also seen in a World Series run by some teams making comments racially charged or otherwise at other teams. This was more just a hype. Yes, did he call out, are we live and then say it? Sure. But at the end of the day, like, yes, maybe kids were listening, but as we talked about when it happened, like we're all adults. That's a teachable moment. Hey, don't say that word. Like,
Look, I don't think he's lying when he said he was almost suspended because his demeanor in post game interviews after that moment really did change. He was very self conscious of what of what he was saying. But that all changed when it came to after the World Series, and especially the celebration. And I get it; they were all just hammered, they were all drunk. But he so we all know he went after Fat Joe during that celebration, and so Fat Joe was on on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, and I kind of say I kind of felt bad for Fat Joe, Amie.
Mhm.
What he said. Do you want to let people know what he said in that interview?
Honestly, I took a listen to it this morning before I sent it to you, but I didn't make any notes on it. I didn't know we were covering it, but I mean the gist of it was like he did the best that he could, and there were some issues with the sound. So like they tested it like 3 times before he went out there. Then when he went out there, he got that reverb in the background. So like it was echoing, which what are you supposed to do in the moment? Like he did his best, and he even said like at the end of the day like he got to perform at the World Series. He got to represent the Yankees in the city of New York, and you got to give credit to the guy. Like that would be tough to go up against like Ice Cube on the West Coast, and he even said like I didn't realize this was turning into a West Coast East Coast beef.
Yeah, and that's why I feel bad for him, because even if he didn't have all those technical problems, he was never gonna outdo Ice Cube
Mhm.
because it's Ice Cube. You know,
Mhm.
it's the same way. It's like you're gonna put me up against Dan Lebitard. I'm not gonna beat out Dan Lebitard. You know, he's Dan Lebitard, right? So that's why I do kind of feel bad for him. I do feel like he has a point when he says, "Hey, bro, you won the World Series. Why you fucking why you throwing, you know?" Go ahead, defend
No,
him.
no, 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 no. I hear you, but I think what people don't take into consideration, and this is something I've mentioned on the show before that I am super careful about. People don't always think about what I say right now. What are the not even the consequences, but what is the ripple effect of what I'm saying? There's a lot of times I want to say things differently on this show, but because I am a woman in baseball, I am very careful how I say it because I impact other women in this sport. I impact how people look at women talking about this sport. So I am very careful what I say. I think when you're hyped up in the moment, you're jazzed, you may not be thinking about that. There are people who said, even when Kike did the original thing during the NLDS, that was premeditated. Dude was probably hyped. They just won. And like we all know, everybody said the Padres were the World Series. He's an animated guy. I am not excusing it, but he probably wasn't thinking like, if I do this, what are the consequences of this, in the next 5 minutes, let alone, next couple of weeks, game I could be suspended. I think sometimes people get caught up in the moment and we forget about that because we all have hindsight and they don't. And again, as a woman, I'm a little bit more conscious of this. I think in some cases for some men, they don't think about this at all because unless you have had a consequence, if nobody's holding you accountable, why would you think about it?
All I'm saying is we can stop making fun. We can stop putting Fat Joe down,
I
guys.
don't think we should be making fun of him, but I think the comments that were made during the World Series celebration, again, to your point, alcohol fueled, but I think also probably not thinking too far into the future of like, oh, that was a guy representing his city, doing his best. We don't know. Again, technical issues found that out. Like we don't know what's going on for him.
And we also don't know, they might have asked Jay-Z, they might have asked other guys who are more on the level
Mhm,
at Ice Cube, and they had their reasons for maybe not doing it. The fact that Fat Joe answered the bell,
mhm.
I
I
don't
think
think we
that's
need
where
to pile
multiple
on. We don't need to pile on Fat Joe, is all
No,
I'm
I
saying.
agree, we don't, but I think that's where we also need to remember hindsight and also multiple things can be true at the same time.
It just reminded me, there's this interview. I don't know who the actor is. He's getting interviewed by Larry King. And I guess he was a voice of one of the characters on DuckTales, the new version of DuckTales.
Woo!
And like Larry King was asking him, what's a luxury that you like? And he's just like, I really like nice socks. And Larry King's just like, nice socks are not a luxury. A luxury is like, flying to a private island.
To you, Larry King.
And the guy looked at Larry King and said, Larry, I'm on DuckTales. Where it's just like, let's have some perspective here, guys. Who thinks Fat Joe is Ice Cube? So it's like, obviously, whatever, even Fat Joe's best performance isn't going to touch Ice Cube. So let's just like that great poet who said the words, leave Britney alone. Let's just leave Fat Joe alone, guys.
But
It's over
I
and
don't
done with. Let's move on.
but I don't know that people are necessarily piling on him anymore. I mean, I know it was happening post World Series, but, like, is that continuing to happen, or
Well, like
are
the
we are
thing,
we are we trying to make fetch happen and
Exactly. It sounds like, hey, let's stop making fetch happen. But there are some things that will continue, like that famous sticker. Now the
Mhm.
5-0 for you football fans. If you like football, and unfortunately, my apologies to the Mexican football national team fans. The Americans used to chant "2-0" to the Mexicans because the U.S. team beat Mexico 2-0. I think that's a chant that Yankee fan, get prepared. You're going to start hearing next year, and that is 5-0, and it's coming.
Yeah.
Did you
That
like that
sticker,
sticker, by the way?
I mean, if I found one, I'm not saying I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't put it on my car, but I'd probably put it somewhere in my house. Yeah.
I saw someone already put it on a hat, so I'm very curious.
Oh, so for anybody who doesn't know, it's just it looks like the scoreboard, like when you're watching a game. It's got the Dodgers down 0-5. You see the bases loaded little icon on there, and then you see top of the fifth, and it's a 1-0 count. And somebody put that, on their car, made a sticker right before Judge bobbled the ball, which I guess kind of takes us into our next little foray. Oh, we're losing all
No,
the
I like.
fun
I was there. I
wisdom.
was there. I was there. I like what you did there. That was a very good transition. Before we go to that transition, I do want to confirm Andre Lipsius, not Lipschitz. Andre Lipsius
Thank
was
you,
released by the
Juan.
Dodgers last week.
Okay, that's interesting that it's not showing up on the MLB transactions page.
So
Mm.
let's go to the judge. Here come the judge. Here come the judge.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We've actually got two auction stories here. So we'll go with the downer first, and then we can go with the upper, I guess, the positive. I don't know. But there was so this was in Newsweek. JP Hornstra had written about this on December 14th, that there's a New York radio host who was blasting the Dodgers for being classless for auctioning off Aaron Judge's ball, that ball that he bobbled in the fifth inning. It was auctioned to benefit the LA Dodgers Foundation, which is the official team charity. But Evan Roberts of WFAN, on the Evan and Tiki show, had mentioned that it was basically trolling. I have the quote, but I'll let you kind of weigh in, add anything that you want.
I've got hurt feelings. I've got hurt feelings. That is a reference for you Flight of the Concord fans, if anybody is a fan of them. That's what that really feels like. Like I said, for me, the Fat Joe, slander seems a little out of place because it's not like, what we're doing here. What this guy did at the W fan is, I think, kind of the same thing that maybe Kiké was guilty of, and that is you get caught up in the moment and you say things without knowing the full story. And
Without also remembering that the internet is forever.
because I do feel it's very important what you just said, and that is that the Dodgers were auctioning this ball off to raise funds. Now, for me, I don't know why anybody would want that ball.
Hey, if
Like,
somebody's gonna pay for it, though, I mean, and to your point, I felt the same way. It's going to a charity. It's not like the Dodgers were auctioning it and, like, cutting a profit. So,
exactly. Now,
did
the
you see
next
what it
ball that
sold for?
what did it sell for?
$43,510.
Wow, man. People out there burning money, man. They are just out there burning money. Like I said, I'm glad that it was used for some sort of positivity, but I don't know why you would want that ball. I really don't. The next ball that you're going to talk about, that one I understand.
Yes, so Freeman's ball was auctioned over, the weekend of I guess it would have been Friday the 13th weekend, about the same time that this happened, so probably all.
Sorry.
There's actually a cumbia version of, I think, Friday the 13th or something. I'll have to send it to
Of
you. I think so. I have it in my phone. I'll send you the link. It's amazing. Um, so Freddie Freeman's ball was auctioned. It went for 1.56 million.
damn. Do we know who bought it?
No, it was auctioned by, it said SCP Auctions, the December Dynasty Collection. So it did go for more than the 1.5 million that Aaron Judge's 62nd home run ball went for in December of 2022. But it went for less than the $3 million that Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball from the 1998 season went for.
I don't know how you would combine those numbers, but I'll just say this. That is a ball that I would love to have because that Federico's Grand Slam is iconic. That is a moment. I mean, how long did the Gibson home run live? And it still continues to live in Dodger history. That Federico home run ball is that home run is going to live forever. And to be able to.
And the fact that there were still headlights in the parking lot again.
So wait, there were headlights in the Federico home run?
There were people who were leaving, yeah.
Oh, because you were there, so you know.
Yeah, and then we stayed afterwards, and I tell you, the cheering did not stop after the game. It was screaming the entire time because I was there with Philip and Jessica. We met up afterwards from our respective seats because they were in loge.
They were loging? They were loging
they were loging.
What a bunch of logers.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, the stadium was electric. So for the people watching on TV who have that memory, for the people who were in the stadium that have that memory, and now whoever bought this ball and gets to keep it, I hope you have really good security, man or woman.
Yeah, that I did not know, but over under how many people do you think are going to say that they were at that game at Federico? Do you think it's over 1 million?
Oh, for sure. It's gonna go into the same bracket as like Kirk Gibson.
Yeah, I don't think I think there's less people that I've met who have told me they weren't at the Kirk Gibson home run than more people who tell, oh, I was at that home run. I was like, sure,
I have my
sure
ticket
you were.
stub. I have my ticket stub. So
I know you were there, but I'm sure I'm going to run into a whole bunch of people telling me they were there for that Federico Grand Slam.
In 5 years from now, if you're telling me that you were there, we're gonna have beef, mister.
Well, what I do love is the number of people that just still continue to watch that video. Like
Heck yeah.
we are now like 2 months, past the moment.
If I need a serotonin boost, that video, that's my jam right there.
I will say this though, Amie. I get more emotional watching the Gibson home run than I do the Federico home run.
I get emotional in different ways. The Gibson one will bring me to tears just because it's beautiful, and the Freddie Freeman one gets me pumped. Like
I think that's fair. I think that is a very accurate way of putting it. But I do remember, I think it was Spectrum Sports Net did a piece on it, and I just remember watching it and finding myself going like, "What's happening to me? Why am I getting emotional?" And I think it's just the sight of seeing Gibson come out of that dugout limping, just knowing, dude, this guy can't even move. Like, how the hell did he hit that?
It's the combination of Gibson and we know how hobbled he was, but also Vin Scully calling that entire segment. I mean, obviously the game, duh. But like the way that he called it and the way that he set it up, you don't even have to watch the video and you can visualize it just based off of what Vin Scully's saying.
I think that's fair. Anything else on these auctioned baseballs?
No, it's a little rich for my blood, but I also don't want to have the security and the insurance and the whatnot. I'm good.
All right, now let's go to one of our favorite segments on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's piss off Amie. Amie, what did your boy Manfred say now?
There's an article in The Athletic, and it just I just feel like when he talks about things, even when it's at the winter meetings, like it's always some kind of backpedaling or generalizing of everything, like what we talked about earlier this year when he was like answering questions, but not really answering questions. I mean, he was backpedaling on some of the starting pitching inning requirements, which we talked about that many episodes ago, where he wanted to like have a requirement. Well, now he's saying that, I think that's too blunt of an instrument to fix the problem. It has to be a series of rules that create the incentive for clubs to develop pitchers of a certain type. Okay, that's not what you were saying before, bro, but that's cool. He also mentioned that salary deferrals can become problematic. He said that it's concerning when the bigger that the numbers get, and he's warned that clubs can go too far when deferring salaries, which is interesting to me because in that same article, they're talking about how teams still have within a year and a half, they have to, of that given season, they have to have the present value of the money put aside. And that assures the money is going to be there for the player to be paid. So if that's the case, and that's something in our comments corner that I was alluding to earlier that Hazity, I think that's also Greg, mentioned, where it's like, if they've got to put the money aside, like what are people so up in arms about? Like, I don't.
You know what's going to happen is the Dodgers are probably going to have a season where they're what they owe in deferrals for that season alone is probably going to be bigger than some teams' payrolls. And
Sure,
and I
sure.
also think Manfredi is laying the groundwork. The deferrals is going to play a major issue in the next collective bargaining agreement.
And
I
that's the
it's
question that
happening.
came out of that article is, will him and the other owners push for change during that collective bargaining agreement? Because that does expire in December of next year, or sorry, 2026. But the MLBPA has been opposed to it in previous years, the Players Association. But now it's going to be a bigger bargaining chip for all the other owners that are,
Taking
I
handouts.
don't want to say butthurt, but
Taking
like,
handouts from the rest of Major League
yeah,
Baseball?
yeah. But like he's trying to color it that he's centered on encouraging best practices, and I'm just like, okay, but I agree with what Andrew Friedman said regarding some of the conversations, and he said it's kind of a lazy narrative, and I feel like it is. Like, we'll get into next week, we'll talk, like I've already alluded to, we'll talk about like the payroll and people going over the CBT, but teams are supposed to be spending, like that is the whole purpose of this. Otherwise, like what are we doing? And the Dodgers don't even, they're the second highest franchise as far as value is concerned by Forbes. They were saying that they're valued at 5.5 billion. So they're not even the first. And they're still continuing to put a quality product out on the field. So what are we upset about? They're banking the money. They're going to have the money to pay their players. If they have a down year because the majority of their salary is going to deferrals, that they're going to have to deal with that. Maybe that's a building year down the line farm system wise. We don't know, but I don't know. It's kind of that my best friend's always like, worry about yourself. What do you go worry about yourself? Go spend on your own team.
All right. How you feeling?
I didn't get to the lockouts piece.
Oh, do you want to add that
I
part
just
out?
I just want to say something about it.
Okay.
So it did come up, and they did bring up the 3-month lockout during 2022. And Manfred's thing was, well, we didn't miss any games, and that's what matters. The off-season lockouts are off-season lockouts, you know? And I just like that feels very flippant because there were a lot of players that were impacted by that. Max Muncy was one of the injured players that couldn't get the care that he needed or the training that he needed. He's not the only one. So to be so flippant about lockouts and things like that, it sounds tone deaf to me when it comes down to like, well, we didn't miss any games. Well, yeah, but your players were still impacted by it. So it's not a good look.
How you feeling?
I'm a little hot. Can you tell
All
my
right.
cheeks are a little red?
Let's go to the coraje meter. What number are you on the coraje meter?
On the coraje meter.
That's the
You-
anger meter.
I'll live. I'll live. None of this impacted you. You have no feelings. It doesn't. You're just like, are you just ambivalent about Manfred?
I am, but I will say this, Amie. For those of you who have been following me long enough, know I have a fight club, and a lot of people in my fight club are either baseball announcers or people associated in baseball. So I need to ask you, Amie, are you now officially? Do you have a fight club, and is Manfredi a member of your fight club?
I think he's the only one.
All right, but you have a fight. You have
Well, wait,
confirmed you have
no.
a fight club.
I can't confirm or deny because the first rule of Fight Club, you
Is
don't talk about Fight
you
Club.
you are very good,
Would you
very
like
good,
some soap?
very good. All right, so you don't have a
Uh-huh.
fight club, okay, and Manfredi is not on your fight club. Okay, I get it. I get it.
No. Uh-huh. No.
All right. Anything else that Manfredi said that is making you chart on the coraje meter?
No, I mean, obviously we have some stuff coming up, and I mean, we'll keep it brief about like the MLB study with the pitch velocity and whatnot. I think some of it is not anything that anybody's shocked by. I think some of it's a little concernicus of like, did you guys
Did
really
he
study
comment
that?
on that?
Yeah, there were some comments. So Jeff Passan and I think it was Jesse Pierce had two really great articles on ESPN talking about it. And I will say this, as a word nerd, I did love Jeff Passan's. He mentioned it was a literal call to arms, since we're talking about pitching.
Net alert. So, for those of you
Love
who
it.
aren't familiar with these stories that Amy's referencing are basically stating that the increase in velocity is the would you say is the major contributor to
They're
the
saying
injuries?
they're saying it's the greatest driver of industry. And now, so the big part of this with this study that it was basically 200 people were involved in it is the MLB is now on record saying it. So while we're not going to see any changes immediately, this is what's going to drive the youth of, the next like in the next 10 years or after that. So things aren't going to change outright, but the fact that chasing velocity is the number one driver and then just stuff at all levels, that's impacting arms in a negative way. So now what do we do? Because we know that this is a contributing factor. They were talking about basically the study from spring training through the regular season. It's because some players are now doing year round, like they're doing a lot of off season work. They can track what goes on from spring training through the regular season. They can't track that off season work. So players are getting injured typically on a higher rate in like March as we're getting into spring training or the regular season. But there were so many other factors that went into it. The modern workload management strategies. So they're even saying that reducing workloads was a contributing factor for pitchers, which was interesting. The technology, just pitchers relying so much on like, okay, I threw it, did it tunnel, all the vocabulary that goes into it, but like, did it do this, this, and this? And they're so reliant on, okay, show me the data. Now I'm going to throw again. And just, third time through. Some of the other factors were training. There is more of an emphasis on power and strength training versus cardio and endurance. Prior history. So if pitchers are getting injured at younger ages, it's not necessarily when they get up to the MLB that's the determining factor of injury. It's the 3 seasons that they played before that they got up and they played year round. There were so many different things in the article. It was actually really, really informative.
So, what were Manfredi's remarks on it?
I'd have to honestly, I have 2 pages of notes on this. So
All right. So,
um,
we'll save it for. I don't want to
we
dwell
can
on the guy who's not on your Fight Club. So,
I mean, not no Fight Club,
that's
but
right.
it honestly, it was really interesting, even just, like, this is where it was a little sus to me. They're saying that the rule changes were probably not a factor, the pitch clock, the sticky stuff. COVID was more of a factor than the rule changes, surgical advancements with, like, the incorrect perceptions of surgery. It was interesting because they said 20% of people who get Tommy John don't make it back, and most people don't realize that. And so they're banking on the risk is worth it. I'll just get my surgery and I'll bounce back. And a lot of pitchers don't come back. We just watched Walker Buehler go through his second one, and it wasn't as easy as people thought it would be.
All eyes on Dustin May this year, ladies and gentlemen.
Mhm.
That's what look. I do. If this is what they are aiming at, in this, if they're focusing on the velocity, I do think it's going to take years
Mhm.
for us to see the effects of them not focusing on velocity. It's going to be interesting to see what the high school players do, but also most importantly, these
That's
travel
actually
ball.
that's the last category was the amateur contributions of, the year-round training, but people chasing velocity and stuff at a younger age. There was a really gross stat of, essentially guys are getting bigger and stronger, but their ligament doesn't necessarily get stronger. So some kids are ripping the bone off of their elbow because the growth plate is
Oh
weaker
my!
than the ligament. It said instead of the ligament failing, the bone breaks off. It used to be rare, but now it's happening more often. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Your bone broke? What?
Amie, that's some Steven Seagal movie shit right
I know,
there.
right? Above the Law.
That's right.
Ooh.
I love it. I love it. You get it. You get the reference. Uh,
So it just really interesting. Over the past 4 years, teams are averaging about 32 pitchers a season versus like 1980, where it was like 15 ish.
wow.
So we've more than doubled. It's the thing that Manfred is going for is potentially limiting moves back and forth to the minor leagues and making teams a little bit more reliant on like this is what you get, so work with it and don't rely so much on velocity and stuff. We'll see how it works out.
Watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this space. Um, let's. I don't know if you guys noticed, especially if you are active on social media, but the Dodgers put out a holiday card, and it's a what would you call it, Amie? A virtual holiday card?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a almost 5-minute little movie clip. I mean, I will say to everyone out there, no matter what you celebrate, today is the Eve. So, happy Eve. But oh man, Wisdom lost twice
No,
in
wait,
one episode.
wait. Isn't today Festivus?
Could be, but it's also the Eve.
No, I believe Festivus is December 23rd. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, can you describe to people who didn't see this holiday card? Because what it really felt like is whoever made this holiday card for the Dodgers, I think, is also the person flying the drones over New Jersey or
My
all the drones we're seeing over the country.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but the just watching that drone fly in and out of the stadium was amazing. So, the Dodgers sent it out in an email, but it was also posted all over social media. So it has the voices of Tommy Lasorda, Vin Scully, Jaime Jarrín, Mel Allen, Joe Davis, Dave Roberts. But what you see is basically a journey through the stadium. So as you start in one side of the pavilion, it's going to go in and out of like the club level suites, and then it goes through the press box and through some of the other seats before like going down through the halls that will lead you into the clubhouse and other areas of the stadium. And I know while I was watching it, I was like, hey, that's how we get out to the field. Hey, that's where we go to the clubhouse. Hey, there's my seat. It was just like it was a tour of the seats of the stadium itself, but also kind of the behind the scenes that not everybody gets to see on a regular basis.
And that's what I appreciated the most of it, because I think it did a really good job of showing everything at Dodger Stadium. And I think it's
Obviously before the construction.
right. But I also think for those of you who go to the stadium and they say they announce it's a sellout, but yet you see all these empty seats up in the reserves over by the foul poles. If you see that holiday card, that's where those people are. They're in the
Mhm.
bars, they're in the Gold Glove bars, they're in the bars out in the reserves,
Tommy
they're in
Lasorda's, Speakeasy.
exactly. There are, I think that video did such a great job of the fact that
They
and
even did the stadium club and, like, the not the bougie seats, but, like, where you get to go underneath and eat and then come back out when you're in the cushy seats.
yeah, like, I know Petco has a great hangout area out in their center field. I think, San Francisco also has a nice little hangout. There's a lot of food stands out in their center field area. But watching that video, it was a reminder to me that Dodger Stadium is really just a great hangout spot out there in that center field plaza, or like you go find the cheapest seat you can find and then just get there early and go to the Gold Glove bar and just sit there
In the air
and watch.
conditioning.
I just applaud for someone who's been going to Dodger Stadium for as long as I have to see the changes that they've done to it, but still kept it the feel of Dodger Stadium. They do. I like the Dodgers get a lot of crap, but the times that they get something right, we should give them their flowers. And I
And
think
that drone did not crash through any windows, and it was going at a pretty high clip.
yeah, it was going so fast. It's in New Jersey now.
Yeah.
So, hi-oh, 2 shows nightly at the Pacoima Hilton, everybody. So check out that holiday card. It's on the Dodgers website if you didn't get it already on the email. Before we wrap things up on the show with some Christmas wishes, I do want to acknowledge the fact that the great Ricky Henderson passed away this past weekend.
Yeah.
And the Ricky was one of my favorite players of all time. And yeah, you heard me right when I say the Ricky. because aside from his amazing talent as a player, I think my favorite thing is the fact that he spoke about, like, he spoke in the third person. And I went down a rabbit hole this weekend just listening to players tell stories about Ricky Henderson. Amie, your thoughts on Ricky Henderson? I know I'm just springing this on you, but I did not want to end the show without talking about the Ricky Henderson. Like, for me, for those of you guys know how much I love Ichiro, the Ricky is up there with Ichiro for me in terms of baseball, favorite baseball players that I enjoyed watching my whole life.
Well, I actually wrote down a bunch of stats because I had a feeling you would spring this, and I wanted to be ready.
Oh, look at you. You don't know me. You don't
Oh,
know me.
I know you. I
You
know
don't know me.
you. Um, so I mean, aside from all of the stats, and if anybody doesn't just have them stored in their head, the fact that he stole, 1,406 stolen bases, 130 bags just in 1982 alone, breaking the record. 2,295 runs scored. Like he's just amazing. There were so many different stats for him. But the things that stood out were, like you said, more things of his personality. So there was like a little picture of things that he said were the rules for a long career. One was run 3.5 miles every other day. Two, 200 sit-ups and 100 push-ups every day. Three, stretch before bed. And four, eat plenty of ice cream. And I was like, bless your heart. And that was great. But one of the things was and I'll have to, while you're talking, it was actually an article by Craig Calcetera. It was a cup of coffee extra about Ricky Henderson, and they were talking about Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza just recounted this story every year, like when they would talk about the shares of what they would give other people. This is the quote from Mike, and he said, Ricky was the most generous guy I ever played with, and whenever the discussion came around to what we should give one of the fringe people, whether it was a minor leaguer who came up for a few days or the parking lot attendant, Ricky would shout out, full share. We'd argue for a while and he'd say, F that, you can change somebody's life. And it just like, that's like the humanitarian, because you see all of the people. You don't just see yourself in that. And there are so many stats and wonderful things he did. He played for so long in the league, but he cared about other people. And those are the things that always stand out to me.
His last stolen base and his last home run that he hit in Major League Baseball was in a Dodger uniform. I
Mm-hmm.
remember being so excited when Ricky Henderson got to play for the Dodgers. Yes, it was past his prime. Would I have loved him to have played with the Dodgers in his prime? Of course. But Ricky Henderson, born in Chicago, raised in the Bay Area, played the majority of his career with the Oakland Athletics. Sam Bloom of the Athletic wrote a nice little piece on Ricky Henderson in terms of once he retired from Major League Baseball, he still kept playing in the independent league. And right there, that's something that I love. And I wish that in the end, when I look back at my life, Amie, that I'll be able to say the same thing, that I found something that I loved to do so much that I just kept doing it, find a way to keep doing it. And the Ricky loved playing baseball. And yeah, Major League Baseball maybe wouldn't give him a chance to play anymore, but he went and he played in the independent. And one of the great stories in that piece that Sam Bloom wrote was there was a player on the team that wanted to introduce a new player to Ricky. And the guy was really nervous about meeting Ricky. And he introduced him. And Ricky, I forget what the name of the player was, but Ricky basically said, any friend of blah, blah, blahs is a friend of mine. And it goes along to what you were saying in the sense of his generosity. One of my favorite stories about the Ricky, there were so many told, but did you hear the story about when he got the $1 million bonus from the Oakland A's when he signed his contract?
Tell me.
So the Ricky at that time, I believe, and this is how crazy this is going to sound. At that time, I think the highest contract was Kirby Puckett had just signed, and Kirby Puckett is another guy that I absolutely loved watching play. He's up there for me as well. He signed a 3-year deal for $9 million. This is back in the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. 3-year deal, late 80s, for $9 million. So when the Ricky became a free agent and he signed with the Athletics, he signed for 3 years, $9 million. but they gave him $1 million bonus. And at the end of the year, when the Athletics were balancing their books, they were missing $1 million and they couldn't figure out where was that $1 million. Well, it turns out when they gave the Ricky his check, his signing bonus, his $1 million check, the Ricky framed it. He never cashed it.
Oh my
He
God.
framed it.
The vein in my accountant forehead is popping out right now under my hat. Oh my gosh. I can't balance.
He framed it and put it on his wall. So then they told him, Ricky, can you just take a picture of that check and hang the picture up and
No.
cash the check? But that to me, I think of all the stories, and there are so many other great stories, but I think that really encapsulates who Ricky Henderson is. This was a dude who didn't play for the money. This is a dude who just loved playing baseball. He loved that he got the opportunity. For me, he obviously grew up poor and had no concept of money, and that's why he ended up doing something like that. But there's other stuff that I saw. There was a time where I think they were paying tribute to the Negro Leagues, and did you see this? Ken Griffey Jr. They were playing the Mariners, and so what they did was they were wearing the uniforms, and in between innings, Ken Griffey Jr. would leave his glove out in the field, and then the Ricky would come and pick up. So they used the same glove in the game, and it's stuff like that. The other story that I love
That's
is
the humanity in baseball that I love. I love the game, but it's that stuff. Like, we need more of that.
yeah, exactly. And so characters like the Ricky, another story I heard was when he met John Olerud, when he got reunited with John Olerud on the Mets. And for those of you who don't know, John Olerud played with a helmet on the field.
That story was actually debunked.
He was?
One of the articles said that there was that story was not actually true.
All right. Thank you for calling. There you go, Jose Ayala. Look at her taking your job right there. I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to pay tribute.
He's a
65 years.
baseball great.
65 years old is way too young to go. And for us to lose that guy was it's just very sad. And I'm thank you, Amie, for giving us the time to really pay tribute to a great baseball player. A guy who that's a record probably no one will touch, the stolen base record. But
nobody's even gotten close. And there's even a record where he is like a leader by like 1,000. Let's see, what was it? Most times on base while batting leadoff. His career total was 5,254. He's the leader. I think the next closest person was like in the 4,000s. I'm just like, geez.
He's just for him to hit with power, the stolen bases,
Power and speed.
When managers are like that, don't walk him because it's going to turn into a triple, and Will Clark told a great story about, him getting on base and be like, Ricky gone, and sure enough, like everybody knew he was going to steal a base, and he did 130 stolen bases in a year, Amie. I mean, we marvel that Shohei almost got to 60 and the Ricky is doing 130. And I get it. Before you guys all come out, I mean, the unicorn is a different type of player. I get that.
And he was also hitting home runs and other stuff because the stats will change for some of those players who are predominantly stealing bases versus trying to do both.
But the Ricky hit home runs too,
He did.
And he had one of the great pimps of home runs. Whenever he would hit a home run, pulls on his tugs on his uniform and does the little shuffle before he went. I love that. When he would catch the ball with one hand and he would snap it like that. I was always afraid that he was going to drop it. When I was a kid, I would always try to catch the ball like Ricky, but I was like, I knew that if I dropped it, my coach would go off. Anyways, I could talk about the Ricky, all this. So condolences to Ricky Henderson's family. This is just a huge loss.
His birthday would have been on the 25th too.
That's true.
He's about to be 66.
That being said, the 25th, you mentioned it, even though today is Festivus for the rest of us. And I know
you're not wearing a festive sweater. I came prepared.
Yes. By the way, can you show off that she's wearing her Dodger Christmas sweater? How many of those do you have?
Not many. I do have a R2-D2 one. I realize I need to get a Lord of the Rings.
Alert.
It's adorable. No, I think I have this also in a t-shirt as well, but I can't call it an ugly sweater because it's beautiful. It's a Dodgers ugly Christmas sweater.
Any Christmas wishes? Anything you look forward for Christmas? Any Christmas message you want to send before we wrap things up?
I'm not a big Christmaser. A lot of my family, like my brother lives far away, so I won't get to see him. I usually do the eve with my cousin, but sickness going around right now. We're gonna pass on that. So I don't know. Probably hang out at the brewery for a little bit and watch The Lord of the Rings. Get some tamales.
9 hours of walking, ladies and gentlemen.
10 hours because it's the extended version.
Ay, Dios mío. It is tamales season, ladies and gentlemen. I am getting ready to eat some tamales. We have pozole. We have all the fixins.
Are you a pozole or are you a menudo?
I'm pozole.
See, I'm the other. I'm team menudo.
My daughter is the menudo. She loves herself a menudo, but I am a pozole, in particular, a green pozole kind of person. Tamales, I love rajas. Rajas are up there, but you really can't go wrong with one de puerco. So we 1 year we made tamales. I showed the whole family because my father had taught me how to make tamales. I showed my wife and it's one of my favorite Christmas memories is showing my wife and her family how to make tamales. Yes, I almost had a heart attack and I almost didn't survive Christmas night and if anybody has made tamales, it is a chore.
Oh, it's a lot of work.
And that's why you go ahead and go buy some. But so that is the Christmas wish. We happy Christmas, happy Festivus, happy Kwanzaa. Because
Merry Yule, Happy Hanukkah. I will say, so Juan had to go and be all, I have to go to my work holiday party. So he didn't get to make it to our baseball family dinner, but we did get to go and meet with some of our other family. And look at the gift I got. It's a snow globe of Dodger Stadium full of glitter. Isn't it beautiful? You can't fully see it because of the green screen, but it's the stadium.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is it is a happy Festivus, Merry Christmas episode. I know we covered a lot, and we are going to have an episode next week. It is our year-end episode next week, so please.
And what number is our year-end episode?
I'm going to keep that as a surprise.
For the people who aren't looking at the label.
Exactly.
On this one.
For you podcasters who aren't mathers, we're going to be doing some mathing next week, but we're going to do our year-end episode.
It has the number on there too, I think.
Exactly. I know.
Okay.
I was,
all right. Surprise.
You couldn't give me my moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, guys, you will never know what number episode we have next week. So,
all right, Mr. Scrooge.
All that to say, we need to do over on our baseball family dinner.
Why? Well, now after I saw what they were saying about me in the microphone, I don't know if I want to go ahead and join that dinner. I'm going to have words with that man, Mr. Raider himself.
Because they pay attention to the show.
He's going to get a strongly worded text message from me is what he's going to get. So that's going to do it for this episode. Amie, any last words?
Happy whatever you celebrate. Happy Merry Happy.
Happy Festivus for the rest of us. For those of you who have been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. What are you having for Christmas? Everything we talked about. Do you have any favorite Ricky Henderson stories? And then also make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people, and John.